Welcome back to Pace Immigration, paceimmigration.com. Good to see you, immigration lawyer Michael O'Rourke.
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Going very well, thanks. We've got, can border officials search your personal devices at the border? This comes up from time to time. We hear people ask, hey, they wanted my password. They wanted to look at my phone. Do I have to give it to them? We're going to answer that. And also some news, which is that these rules will be changing. You forwarded me this article from the Toronto Star. I'll quote it briefly. The Ontario Court of Appeal said in a 114-page decision released Friday, that's last week, we're recording this in August of 2024, that there's a need for a higher threshold justifying a search of a traveler's phones, tablets, and laptops after concluding the current law violates the right to be free from unreasonable searches guaranteed by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That's from the Toronto Star. So we're going to look at the rules as they are, and then we'll talk about what maybe the court is thinking. Michael, here are the current rules for when you show up at the border. And I went to the CBSA website, and they reference the Customs Act, which they say gives them permission to do all of what?
Whatever they want, Sean. They can ask for your password, they can look at your files, they can download information, and there's really very few limits on what they can do with your electronic devices. It's almost as if they think that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms don't apply. And we should make a distinction here, Sean. We're talking about travelers coming into Canada at the Canadian border. We'll talk a little bit about what the landscape is for travelers going south from Canada into the United States as well, because it is a similarly rule-free zone, although there are some limits on U.S. border officials as well.
Yeah, this is kind of like a nebulous thing. You hear about it from time to time. I should make reference to the fact that CBSA, which is the Canada Border Officials, they say they only ask less than 1% of the time. And then after that 1% of the time, they catch like 60% of the people do have evidence of a violation somewhere in their electronic devices. And what they're looking for is like the money laundering stuff, the sex crime stuff. I mean, it is important stuff, but the court said that's not good enough. It doesn't matter that you're catching 60% of the 1%. They said you're still violating the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Exactly. In the Toronto Star article and in the court's opinion that recently came out, there are actually hard numbers where there were about 3,100 searches and only 60 actual discoveries of incriminating evidence. So it is quite disproportionate.
Right. So they can ask for your password. They can look at your stuff currently. The court has said now that that's not good enough. This is a court of appeal, by the way. The legal journey may not be over for this subject. The court has given Parliament 6 months, and depending when you're watching this, around early 2025, the court says that Parliament has to come up with new legislation. Until then, the current rules remain in effect. Michael, what do you expect CBSA and the government to do here? Are they going to appeal this, or are they just going to follow along?
That's hard to say, Sean. So the court's opinion is based on Section 8 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which provides Canadians a right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. The judge did a fantastic job of outlining how the current process and the current interpretation of the Customs Act really does not comport with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Ontario Court of Appeal, which is the highest court in Ontario, that is going to carry a lot of sway and influence with the justices on the Supreme Court. So I'm not sure if they will grant a writ of certiorari to bring it up to the Supreme Court.
Okay, so we have here currently border officials only have to be looking for evidence of illegal activity. The court says not good enough. There has to be a reasonable suspicion based on facts that they'll find evidence. And it's the same standard for justifying a strip search at the border. Michael, in layman's terms, what we're talking about here is what you hear all the time on TV. They're looking for just cause.
Exactly. Just cause is a U.S. concept, but it is something more than just hand me your phone, Sean. I think I don't like the way you look. I do actually, Sean. I wouldn't demand your
I
phone.
appreciate that.
But
you can have my phone. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you. But no, it's they have to have something. The way the traveler's behaving, maybe the live snakes in the traveler's suitcase, maybe a shifty behavior. I don't know. It's early on a Monday morning, and I'm trying to think of being suspicious at the airport after a long flight. But
Right.
they have to have something to base the demand to look at your electronics on. Right now, they don't.
Right. You mentioned the U.S. Let's talk about that for a second. So this is travelers coming into Canada. How does it work in the United States? Can they also ask for your electronics and have a look just because they feel like it?
So, yes, they can always demand the password. In 2018, the U.S. government came out with some rules that limit actually what border guards could ask when or what they could do when inspecting electronic devices. So, U.S. has a similar provision. It's the Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches and seizures. But in the US, it is interpreted that at the border, you must give over your electronics if demanded. Border guards, however, cannot download things from the cloud, so whatever you have stored in the cloud, but they can access your documents on the phone if they're in the phone's memory or stored on the phone. And they have some restrictions, but not many. So if Canada does change the legislation, change the Customs Act now, pursuant to this new ruling from the Ontario Court of Appeal, we will be out of step with the US. Currently, the systems are very similar, where agents have a broad right to look at whatever might be in your electronic devices.
While we're on the subject of going into the United States, you hear this one from time to time, and maybe you can set the record straight for people and let them know that it is indeed true, or it might be false. But if someone is going down to the United States and they have their phone or their tablet on them, and the U.S. border official thinks that person may be trying to work illegally in the United States, I have heard it said that they can ask for your electronic device and they could check some recent emails about in your email account. And if some of that stuff mentions, hey, we can't wait to see you when you're working in Texas on Thursday, you could be in trouble.
Yep.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, if you are working in the United States, you need work authorization. That's all that it comes down to. You have to have that. Even if you're not working, but you're trying to interview for jobs, CBP can take a very expansive approach. It's like, well, you're trying to work in the United States and you don't have authorization. Yeah. It is a catch-22, but they have broad powers to look and see what's in your email, what's in your texts. Even if your texts might be encrypted, they can try to de-encrypt those.
Right, and we should point out too that the current rules, so this new stuff is not in effect. So if you are coming into Canada as a traveler, even if you're Canadian, they can still ask for your electronic device. They can ask for your password. The current rules are still in effect. We should note that if you decide to just stay mum and say, no, I'm not giving you the password, then they could seize the device and try and crack it.
Exactly.
Okay, so there you go. At the border, it's still not. It's still pretty wide-ranging stuff that border officials can do, and you should be aware of it.
It is, but let's see how this Court of Appeal decision plays out. Hopefully, the government will follow suit and make changes to the Customs Act so that CBSA agents are at least required to demonstrate or to verbalize or to at least conceive of some reason to look at your phone. To be realistic, they can't look at everybody's phone, everybody's laptop, everybody's iPad for every traveler coming through. That's quite onerous, and that doesn't happen today. But it would be nice to see some sort of there so that they have to actually have a reason to do it.
Okay. Michael O'Rourke, can border officials search your personal devices at the border? Any questions for him on that issue and more? Contact him at mo'rourke@pacelawfirm.com. Michael, thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot, Sean. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.